Conte's first game a perfect microcosm of Spurs and Spursiness. It remains to be seen whether Antonio Conte will be a success or a disaster, but Spurs showed plenty to suggest he has something to work with. As first games go, that was pretty much perfect, wasn't it? Not for Antonio Conte. But for us. The rest of us. All of us, and especially lazy halfwits who have to write about it and like things to be as easy and simple as possible. For those guys, absolutely perfect. The fast start, the 20-minute 3-goal spell, where Spurs played fantastically fizzing football that offered a tantalizing glimpse of how good things could be under Conte with a re-energized and refocused Harry Kane able to once again kid himself that he's at a proper big club in a way he for some reason couldn't under a manager recently sacked by Wolves. Then came the familiar defensive frailties as Vitesse Arnhem, who it should be said, are a far better side than would have been acknowledged had Spurs gone on to win this game as comfortably as it first appeared, helped themselves to a couple of goals back. They were classic Spurs concessions as well, the first from a set piece and the second a careless and needless ceding of possession in a dangerous area. From the first Vitesse goal on 32 minutes to the second of the Dutch side's 2 quickfire red cards late in the second half, Spurs were wretched and palpably second best. When it was Spurs a man down, they endured a torrid 20 minutes of desperate defending on the edge of their own box, and it's doubtful they could have seen the game out had Vitesse not squandered their numerical advantage. So there it was. Plenty of reason to see why Conte can be a success. Even this early, Spurs' shape and patterns of play were clearer. There was greater urgency and purpose to the attacking, and a clear desire to press from the front and play out from the back. Which brings us to the reasons why it could all go to SHT. Because Spurs are currently neither fit enough to do the first for long periods nor confident and compassed enough to do the latter at all. But it should come. These are all hangovers from the dark end days of Mourinho, and as in the final scoreline, ultimately the positives outweighed the negatives. While reading too much into the daftness of the final stages of this harum-scarum game would be foolish, one early conclusion might be that the arrival of Conte is good news for Harry Winks and bad news for Oliver Skipp. It's been so long since Spurs had a manager who actually utilizes the midfield as a means of progressing the ball up the pitch rather than just an extra screen for struggling defenders that it's easy to forget just how good Winks was at times under Mauricio Pochettino. His struggles to get game time during the best of the Poch years owed more to Moussa Dembele and Victor Wanyama than any failing on his part. He is a limited midfielder with a specific set of skills, but he is a neat and crisp passer who excels in the kind of snappy patterns Conte will want to employ. With 3 central defenders, the need for 2 midfielders running around making tackles and disrupting play is reduced, and Winks' greater ability to move things forward might be crucial in the short term. Ideally, Giovanni Lo Celso would prove himself worthy in that role alongside Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, but that might be for brighter days when Spurs have sorted out the basic structure of the whole thing. Other than that, Conte's 3-4-3 looks a good fit for the squad with obvious selections in all other key positions. Picking 3 centre-backs because you don't have 2 you particularly trust can be a weakness, but this is not a new formation for Conte that he's using because of the players he has. It's what he knows. And while Spurs centre-backs are all flawed in various ways, all have qualities that lend themselves to a back 3. Eric Dyer's midfield experience means he is comfortable stepping out. Ben Davies can shuffle across quite happily to the left when the situation requires, and the sight of him as the furthest man forward in the creation of Spurs' 3rd goal was quite something for a fanbase who had come to view even a shot on target as a rarity in the latter days of Nuno's doomed interregnum. Christian Romero excelled in the middle of a 3 for Atalanta last season, which Conte will know all about, and which did make it a touch surprising to see him on the right and Dyer in the middle. Romero's red card that put Spurs in such jeopardy here was a result of such positional uncertainty, his 2nd yellow coming for a crude rugby tackle when caught out of position. But while his all-action blood and thunder style can be a little bit knife-edge, you would think that in time the safety net of a back 3 will help him settle into Premier League life. There is clearly much talent there. And both Spurs starting full-backs, Emerson Royal and Sergio Reguilón, are far more comfortable going forward and ideally suited to wing-back roles. It does fit and doesn't require much fudging. This continues into the front 3, where the intelligence of Heung-min Son and the runs of Lucas Moura allow Kane to drop into a playmaking number 10 role and a kind of 3-5-2 when the mood and situation takes him. Most striking in this game, though, was how well Kane played the lone striker role after Spurs were reduced to 10. He used all his nous to hold the ball up, win free kicks, and these qualities were integral to the 2 yellow cards in quick succession that did for Danilo Doki and nullified the mounting pressure Conte's side were facing. While it was undoubtedly a very silly game, arguably Spurs' silliest in Europe since that time Eric Lamela did a Rabona before Kane scored a hat-trick and then ended up in net, allowing a tame free kick to dribble past him, there were plenty of clear signs of what Spurs might become under Conte. Happily, there was enough in each direction to leave it unclear whether this appointment will be a genius masterstroke that finally ends the old trophy drought or yet another disaster. But what it did confirm is that whichever one of those outcomes prevails, it's surely going to be riotously entertaining.